Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows or adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Flash, as well as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, in this episode of Flash, it's kind of our first time really. It happened. We've seen it a little bit before, but this is kind of our first time really seeing Barry kind of handling not having his speed. Before he was kind of, after he had kind of been broken by Zoom. That's kind of our first time ever really seeing it. Has it ever come up before? I'm trying to remember, like, Barry ever having his speed stolen. No, because I won't lie to you, like, in my brain, I was thinking of Smallville, because I was like, oh yeah, Clark got his powers taken multiple times, didn't he? But it's like, no, this is like the first time Barry's just been without his speed, and it's interesting because it's like, how do you adjust? Because, like, he's so much of his life has been built around having his speed. He's had it for so long. It's weird. It's interesting. You've lived your life so many years just as a normal person. He's lived his life 20 some years as a normal person. He's been the Flash for like a year plus. And it's like, now that he's going, it's like, he doesn't really know how to function. It's weird. Just like things take longer, and it's just, he doesn't know what to do. I mean, especially when there's a metahuman that pops up in this episode. I forgot his name. Essentially, he has superhuman strength, but the more he uses his strength, the more his body rapidly ages. He had kidnapped Wells because he's mistaking Earth 2 Wells for Earth 1 Wells, and essentially they have to find a cure. He's looking for a cure, but Wells telling him there's no cure. And so Barry and them try to take him down because they figure the best way to do that is by making him exert his power. The more he uses strength, the more he'll rapidly age, and so he'll kind of be, an old man. So, cause really he's 18 years old, but in like a year he aged like what looks like maybe 30 years or so. And I did like the fact is that, Barry did fight him without his powers. Essentially, they tried to mess with him, forcing him to use his powers. They even took the alloy, I forgot what it's called, but it's that alloy that they make Ray's Atom suit is made out of, and they kind of put it on Barry's body. I love it, though. He's just like, Cisco's like, yeah, we only had enough to make it kind of here in your chest area. He's like, it can take maybe one punch. After that, it just kind of will end with you, just kind of, end with me, just kind of, like, yeah. Because this episode brought up a lot of interesting things. Like, for instance, how... Because at the beginning we have Wells blaming everything on Barry. He's like, "This is your fault. Zoom's coming to Earth. He's after, he can come and go between Earth 1 and Earth 2 anytime he wants to because you wanted to open the portal. You didn't stop Zoom, and now on top of that, he has his speed, and there's no one here to stop him." So blames him. It's like, "I'm gonna go track down Jessie." Does track her down, but she doesn't want to see him. It's like I said, it kind of comes back to that point. Like, I get why she's pissed at him, but it's like part of me doesn't know. Like, I don't know if I'd necessarily be as pissed with him as she is. She's like, "You killed a guy," but it's like, he did it for you. But she kind of brings it up later on in the episode. The fact is, the reason why she's so upset is because he died because of her. Like, basically, it's her. Because she was in trouble, like, the burden is on her because that man's death is her responsibility because her dad only killed him because it was a means of getting her back. And, so it was more so she was mad at the situation more so than she was mad at... I mean, because she even went as far as saying at one point, like, "Oh, I'm more scared of you than Zoom." Really? Your dad... The guy who, yes, he killed one person. I'm not advocating murdering someone, but it's like he did it for the right reasons compared to Zoom, aka Hunter Zolomon, aka serial killer who's killed, didn't they say like 26 victims? So it's like, yeah, it's a little hard to compare. Granted, in her mind, her dad is her hero, so it's like for him to have killed someone, it just shatters that image of him in her mind. So that's why it probably affects her more. But it's like Zoom's a monster, and you're comparing your dad to him, so... Another thing, that came up in this episode is, Wells even explained it himself, like, that metahuman kept blaming him, saying, like, literally, he's like, "You created the particle accelerator as a means of, advancing science, but then you didn't even think about the ramifications for all the people you'd affect." And it's like, no, he's not Earth 1's Wells, but let's not forget, even if that's the case, he's still made the particle accelerator that's on Earth 2, meaning he's just as responsible for, the I was about to call them Inhumans. Ooh, mixing comics up, right? The metahumans in Earth 2. He even admits it, like he's like, I ran away from it for so long because it's like he's kind of run away from the responsibility he has for Zoom existing, as well as all the other metahumans, like the people's lives he's affected. Even though it was specifically Earth 1 Wells at this time, I mean, technically it wasn't even Wells, it was actually Eobard, but still, because of that, a lot of people's lives were changed, but he realizes, it's like, I did the same thing on Earth 2, but I'm here trying to run, because, and Barry's essentially like, you know what, I can't, like, go on like this, like, I won't be able to stop Zoom. I took down this one metahuman without my powers, but I won't be able to do it again. So Wells is like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get you your powers back. And how we're going to do that? By making another particle accelerator. It's like, how are you going to do that? Like, which in a way sounds menacing yet awesome, because it's like, I get the feeling it's like, well, there's no way that's going to like end well. It's like, how are you going to like make a contained particle accelerator without it kind of reaching out and affecting anyone? Which also in the back of my mind is thinking like, maybe Wally. I know. I keep bringing it up, but it's just like, dude, I don't know. As well as Jesse, because I do know. It's something, I picked up is that, Jessie was a speedster in the comic book as well. Granted, she was a very short-lived speedster, so it's like, who knows? I feel like the reason why they're not really jumping at this is because it's like, for one, it take all the attention away from Barry, because the show is about the Flash, so I feel like they really, I don't know, I feel like they wait a little while longer before they bring in more, like, sidekicks. Because even for Green Arrow, Roy, I don't know why I was calling him Roy. Roy didn't become Red Arrow / Arsenal until, nearing the end of really kind of season 3. I mean, he was kind of a sidekick a little bit in season 2, but it was more so in season 3 he kind of took up that mantle. So it's like, it kind of makes sense that we won't get Wally until a little bit later on. But it does make you wonder, because it's like, at what point would they cut it off? Because there are, from what I can tell, there are quite a few speedsters in the comic books. I don't know a lot of them. Like I'm only familiar with a handful of them, but it's like there are quite a few of them. So it's like not like they can hit you with them all at once. But it does make you wonder. It's like I keep expecting. It's like oh, when are things going to turn around? We're going to randomly get Wally as a speedster. I did like the fact is that speaking of Wally, I did like the fact is that he was in this episode that he was talking about wanting to thank the Flash, because it's like, yo, you gave up your powers for me. He's like, I'm not going to waste this chance that you gave me. It makes you wonder, when is he going to find out about the Flash being Barry? I would have thought like somehow it would. Like, Barry would have felt the need to tell him for some reason. I don't know. Like, it was just in the back of my mind. I was kind of being stupid, but I just thought, I don't know. I felt like at some point that was going to happen. I mean, it's going to, obviously, but it's like, it makes you wonder what are the circumstances going to be. But he is thanking Barry. He's like, you gave up the Flash, because he doesn't know it's Barry. But it's like, yeah, thank you. You gave up your powers for me, and it means a lot. I'm not going to waste this chance. And Barry's like, you're welcome. It's just like, I love the look on his face. He's like, he kind of had that, oh, dude, I just talked to a superhero type of look on his face. I thought that was kind of neat. And it does seem like with Jessie back, she kind of made up with her dad. She's like, promise me that you just won't, hurt anyone trying to protect me anymore. And he's like, as long as you promise to never run away from me again. They're like, deal. It's sweet. It's just beautiful. Like I said, I understand both sides to everything. I understand why Jessie left and why she feels the way she does. But I can also understand why Wells did what he did. I mean, everyone can understand. Even Jessie herself understands. But, it's beautiful to finally see them together again. It's kind of interesting that she kind of sort of has taken, like, fill the void for Caitlin, because apparently she has, 5 majors and stuff. She's like, yeah, this is one of my majors. Like, how many do you have? She's like, 5. They're like, wow, she's quite the intelligent person, isn't she? That's crazy. And speaking of Caitlin, we actually got the look in to see her in Earth 2, and it was so twisted how like Hunter like cuts her free. He phases her free, and he's just like, yeah, you can have free reign of the place, just like because I love you, Caitlyn. You know, I, you know, I love you. I have these feelings for you. That's why I'm not going to hurt you. And which someone brought it up before, that it's like, how can Hunter be in love with her when the other Jay was the one that fell in love with her? And to me, I equated one of two things. One, because the whole time remnant thing was kind of a time thing, so like, he's already experienced all of this before, maybe because of time travel and stuff like that. If you want to get all technical with it, I'm not about to break down, but to me, maybe time travel is involved. Two, because him and his past self were constantly switching back and forth, like, oh, this Hunter, this present day Hunter, Zoom, is, here in the present. He's here with Caitlyn, and then, maybe he'll leave, and the Jay that comes back and replaces him is, the past remnant Jay. So, like, maybe they switch back and forth. So a lot of the times that we actually got, or maybe all the time we spent with Jay has been this, present day Jay, and it's only at the very end of it, when he killed him, it's like, kill the other Jay, the past remnant Jay, then maybe that Jay was the, I know it's confusing. I know I'm not making any sense. I hope you can, like, understand my ramblings. But nevertheless, she ends up talking to Killer Frost. That was kind of interesting, and they ended up kind of comparing lives. The fact is they both have issues with their mothers for different reasons, because apparently Killer Frost had a brother named Charlie who died, and that's why her mom's kind of a quote-unquote frigid bitch. And she kind of asked why Caitlyn's mom is like that, even though because Caitlyn was saying, like, I don't have a brother. She's like, so why is your mom mean? She's like, it seems like Caitlyn knows why, but it's just kind of like she doesn't let on. Have you ever met Caitlyn's mom? I don't think so. I get the feeling her mom's kind of one of those people that kind of expects perfection, and it's just like, she's one of those intellectual women that just kind of, she never paid too much attention to her child, and Caitlyn always strived to try and get her attention, by doing her best, being smart. Killer Frost apparently, dropped out of medical school or something like that. I think that's what she had said. But I did like the fact that Caitlyn was willing trying to help Killer Frost. Granted, you can already tell Killer Frost was going to betray her. Still don't know who the guy in the mask is. Like I said countless times before, I was honestly in the back of my head, I was hoping that we'd get it revealed who he is. I'm still banking on the fact is that he is the real Jay Garrett, maybe from like an alternate timeline. Whereas like this quote unquote fake Jay is like he's Hunter Zolomon. Maybe that's the real Jay Garrett. Like I said, he may look like Hunter Zolomon. He may be like an alternate reality, like an alternate Earth version, like, maybe an Earth 3 version or something like that. Or maybe he's from Earth 2. I don't know. You know what I mean? Either he's another version of Hunter Zolomon, who is Jay Garrett, or it's just a completely different person. They look nothing like. I know I've said this before. I keep reiterating it, but I'm going to move on. What I like, but obviously she ended up betraying them. But what I really liked is when she was trying to actually kill Caitlyn, which was sick, is the fact is, as she threw like that icicle spike at her, Zoom runs in, phases all the way through Caitlyn's body, grabs the spike, and stabs Killer Frost with it, and ends up killing her. And I know it's sick and twisted, but it's like, that was so cool. Does that make me a terrible person for thinking that was cool? Because that looks so awesome. I don't know. We've never seen someone phase through an entire person. Like we've seen speedsters phase through objects. This is no different, but still, this is a person. Because granted, if he did it wrong, he could have easily have just killed Caitlyn doing that. But that was still wickedly awesome. That had to feel weird though, having another person phase through your body like that. That's ugh. But the fact of the matter is, he kept Killer Frost alive simply because she looked like Caitlyn. Because, on Earth 1, he fell in love with Caitlyn. And because she wasn't here on Earth 2, he kept her around because it's like, you remind me of her. Granted, you're not the same woman. You don't have the same personality. You just have the same face. He just needed a reminder of Caitlyn. And now that he has Caitlyn and she tried to kill, now that Killer Frost tried to kill Caitlyn, he doesn't need her anymore. He's got the real thing. He doesn't need a substitute. Kind of a little sad to see Killer Frost dead. does make you wonder, will we get Caitlyn turning into Killer Frost? Maybe she'll turn into a good Killer Frost. Most likely with this said and done, we'll probably I'm sure a lot of people are probably disappointed because that means like there's no coming back from that. There's no like, oh, we'll ever have Killer Frost now. She's gone. Unless Caitlyn becomes Killer Frost is gone forever. Because even with the case of Cisco with Vibe and Reverb, even though, Reverb is dead, you still kind of get it because, Cisco is coming. Cisco still has his powers on Earth 1. So Earth 1, Cisco still has powers. So, he's becoming Vibe. Caitlyn's not in that situation. Not unless she does have dormant, metahuman genes inside of her or something like that. Or it's like something later on is going to happen in the series and turn her into Killer Frost. So, but other than that, this might be the last time we ever see her, which is kind of a shame. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be upset about that because they're like, oh, I like Killer Frost more than Caitlyn, blah, 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 blah. You know how people typically are. Either way, I'm fine with it. I mean, it's a little sad, but at the same time, it's just like, okay. I still like Caitlyn anyway, but he ends up, we end up finding out like, Hunter's just basically like, I used to kind of only get, I used to kind of get thrilled from the fact that the number of people I've killed. And now he's like, I'm going to get a thrill by the number of worlds I conquer. And he kind of does a maniacal laugh. It's just like, that basically, he's like, because Caitlyn wants to go back home, and it's just like, I guess, because I love the fact of how dementedly twisted he is, because he really legitimately thinks he's in love with her. And I love how, like, her talking to him kind of makes him flash back to his mom and dad, and like, his dad killing his mom, and it's just like, it just really shows you just how unstable he is. It's crazy how long he was able to pretend to be sane, and now you're seeing the crazy kind of come out. That'd be really interesting if we did get to see more of the crazy side of like Zoom. Like he's already a murdering lunatic, but like to see him kind of like snap, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I can't wait to see where we go from here. Just see how this whole thing about getting Barry his powers back is going to go. Now moving on to this week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We have multiple things went down in this episode. One thing I want to bring up first is the whole Coulson thing with Lincoln putting that explosive vest on him. Basically, like if you get under control by Hive, May's going to detonate this. And May was kind of like, whoa, wait, what? And even Lincoln's like, are you crazy? It's like, is Coulson crazy? Like, what the hell is up with that? That's not a good thing. That's not cool. Why would you do that? I get it. You want to prevent people being controlled by Hive, but still to go to those extreme measures. And I was hoping that back in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, no. Coulson's definitely playing it. It's not real. He never said it was like, oh no, I was just lying trying to get Lincoln motivated or something like that. Nope, he never says something like that. He had this conversation with May because May's like, what do we do when we come across Daisy? Do you want me to, do I have to put her down or something like that? So he's like, oh, why are you so trigger happy? She's essentially basically brings up the fact is that anytime something needed to be done, you come to me. You sit here. He's basically like, comparing Daisy to Andrew. He's like, Daisy isn't Andrew. Andrew basically was a killer. This is Daisy we're talking about here. And then May is like, you can sit here and pretend, yes, I've done everything you asked me to because you're my you're the head honcho, so I'm gonna listen to you, but don't sit here and pretend like your hands are clean. Your hands are just as dirty as mine. Just because you didn't do it directly doesn't make your hands any cleaner than mine. He did eventually apologize for it. And it's kind of understandable. He's like, it's just when it comes to Daisy, he's a little off kilter because he was hoping that, because he brings it up too, that Hive gives Daisy something he was never able to, a family she feels like she belongs. I mean, she found her family, but they weren't the most stable bunch. And like, in a sense, I guess you could argue that this family isn't that much more stable either. And May brings up, she's like, you're not her dad. And he's like, I know, but she's the closest thing I've ever had to a daughter. And it's just like, dude, that's beautiful, Coulson. It's just, I get, that's why he always strives so hard to protect her. And he's even doing so now because essentially he had Simmons and Fitch trying to find a cure for what Hive has done to Daisy. It's very interesting too because Hive is essentially like a drug. He basically hits the pleasure sensor sensory points of your brain and kind of like kicks him into overdrive. That's why you feel so attached to him and feel so connected to him. He gets to you on that level, and I love how he ends up taking her to a spot, that has significance to her and Ward. And, Daisy, kind of figures it out. It's like, finds out, it's like, oh, she figures it out herself. Like, oh, you can use Ward. You've tapped into Ward's memories. And I love that, because I didn't even notice this last episode. It's not until someone else pointed out. The fact is, and they explained it this episode, like, the fact is last episode he called her Sky. And I didn't catch that until someone else said something about it. I was like, he did? And they're like, yeah, because he doesn't know her as Daisy. And they explained in this episode because he was calling her Sky. She's like, it's Daisy. He's like, what? The name's Daisy. He's like, but Ward knew you as Sky. She's like, yeah, I changed my name. Or kind of went back to my original name. It was so interesting because it never crossed my it was such a small detail that I let slip, but that's a beautiful thing too. It was a small detail that they brought back in the next episode. They were like, yeah, you thought we slipped up or something, like, oh, we can't decide about Sky Daisy. It's like, nope, we did that purposely to show you how in tune with people's memories they are, how ingrained it is in their memories, because he wasn't around when she started going by the name Daisy. She transitioned to using Daisy between season 2 and 3. Like, she started going by it a little bit during season 2 when she, because that's her real name. But season 3, at the beginning, is kind of where she really started going by Daisy. Like, the only person that has trouble remembering that is Coulson, because he's still so used to calling her Daisy. So, one of my favorite aspects of this episode is the Fitz and Simon relationship, which is so weird. I love that little awkward conversation about, so like, where do we kind of go from here? Things could get complicated. And then, like, Gemma was kind of a little blunt. She was like, you mean when we have sex? And May was coming, and he's just like, I'll see you in a Quinja, and just looked down and walked away. I thought it was so beautiful because he couldn't even, they were just trying to, it's like, yeah, we could keep our professional relationship without things muddling what could, and they even talk about it on the mission. You're like supposed to be undercover, and you're there, like, kind of talking about your relationship. I love that Matt calls him out because he's like, you think Bobby and Hunter haven't doing that whole, like, oh, the comms are malfunctioning, have to reboot type of thing before. It does seem like they kind of take time at the end of the episode to kind of do their thing. We also have Daisy and Hive visiting that guy from 2 episodes ago. The one who Daisy and Lincoln went to visit him, like him becoming an Inhuman because she threw a Terrigen crystal down at his feet. I can only interpret his power as combustion. That basically he kind of, like, anytime he touches anything, he turns it into a combustible grenade, essentially. Just, it takes a little time, but it'll eventually go off. I guess really it'd be more so a combustible bomb, or really just bombs anything. He just turns anything into a timed bomb, so after a while it'll eventually explode. I mean, that's the best way I can interpret his power. I do love the fact that throughout the episode he's trying to give himself dumb names. I think he went by the name, do correct me if I'm wrong, like, do tell me. Like, I'm pretty sure some of those names he listed were probably, like, actual comic book names. There's probably specific characters from comic books. I'm pretty sure. It's just I'm sure they probably just threw them in there as jokes. It's like, oh yeah, the name Inferno, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But as I've said it before, I'm not a comic book dude. I've never really read any comic books. What I do, like, Marvel, I know less about its expansive universe than I do DC. And even DC, I don't know that much about its expanded universe. But it's just like, there's tons of characters, and I'm pretty sure they're probably like, oh yeah, this is a character that was in blah 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 comic book back in blah blah blah. So I don't know. Maybe they were just stupid names he made up, but I feel like there were just too many of them just to be random names. I'm pretty sure they were probably names of specific comic book characters who have powers similar to his, or maybe they're like alternate names that the specific character he has played in the past, who names that character went by in the past or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. It's really interesting when you look at the whole Daisy and Hive situation, because for the longest time, Ward did have strong feelings for Daisy, and Daisy did have feelings for him. It's very interesting that they are back together again. Granted, it's in this circumstances, but still, it is interesting. It was weird. It's cute, but in a weird way, how like they were standing there and she leaned her head on him. It was like that almost. It's weird because it kind of comes up in the episode, like she's saying, I understand what I'm doing. It's like she's not really necessarily being controlled per se. She's just connected to him, and she's feeling things that she's probably never felt before. She even said he feels the void that she's always felt. I liked in this episode that the whole showdown with that lady who can multiply herself and her and Lincoln. I thought he looked so badass when he was kind of losing control of his powers, and that electricity is kind of surging all over his body and through his eyes. He was like, "Tell me where Daisy is, or I'm gonna hurt," because basically her multiples, like she can feel their pain. Can she create new ones? Yes, I'm sure she can, but it's like every time one of them dies, she feels it. And he was threatening to kill her, but then the other one shows up, and the other one's there, points the gun at her, pulls the trigger, and shoots her in the head. It's just like, and Lincoln's kind of like, "Why would you do that?" She's like, "I'm willing to make sacrifices, essentially, for Hive." And the other one gets killed too. And immediately after, she's like, "Oh, they died. I felt their pain." Hive touched her, and she just kind of was like, "Oh, I'm good again." And we also had him uncovering that device at underneath that guy's house. Essentially, he said it was like the only thing that can stop him. It was like, what the hell is that thing? We had Fitz and Simmons meeting that doctor. They went to tracking him down. I need to remember that actor's name. Is it John Hannah? I know him from the Mummy movies. I was looking at the picture they had of him at S.H.I.E.L.D. and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's him, isn't it?" I was like, "No," and then I saw him from far. I was like, "Oh no, it's not him." "Oh yep, it's definitely him." I'm pretty sure his name is like John Hannah, isn't it? Something like that. But that was kind of cool seeing him. But he ends up being a doctor who they were hoping could help them kind of cure Daisy. But before they could really get his help, Daisy shows up and she's like choking the life out of Fitz, and it's just like, he's like, "Please, we're trying to help you," and she's just choking him more and more, basically saying like she doesn't want to go back, that she's not being controlled, this is what she wants, and that they should respect her wishes. She's basically warning them, saying like, "I saw a vision that someone's going to die, and there's no telling who it is." And she even threatened, she's like, "Do not get in or essentially Hive's way again, because next time I will snap your neck." And it's just like, wow. Granted, she is saying with tears in her eyes, so I'm wondering, like, even if she is like acting the way she is, that there's still a part of Daisy still on the inside trying to fight back. She's sad because she's hurting her friend. I see it in her. I could see it in her eyes. Like I said, they look very watery, so it's just which makes that whole thing even sadder. And then you have that really gut-wrenching moment when we have Hive talking to Gemma, and he's like using Will's memories. It's like, "Oh, you manipulative. Oh, you asshole. You're the reason why you killed Will and possessed his body. You jerk. Don't do this to her." Granted, Gemma was able to shoot him and kind of get away, but it's just like, the fact is that he was willing to do that. It just sucks. It's just... That's what makes him such a dangerous enemy. Not only is he a ferocious monster, but he can mess with you psychologically. Someone brought it up, but I cannot wait till him and Coulson cross paths, because he's going to use like the stuff that went through Ward's head against him, I feel like. I don't know, it's just like, I think that'd be the interesting like showdown between those two, is like having him kind of use Ward's memories and his feelings and his personality to kind of like affect Coulson, because that is one of Coulson's biggest regrets. The fact is he killed Ward out of vengeance, not out of necessity, and it's, he led Hive to getting here, because if he hadn't killed Ward and left his body there, Hive wouldn't have a host right now. So we also had Coulson with that shield that comes out of his artificial arm. I really like that. He was just like, I felt like the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. should actually have a shield. And that's something I kind of, Fitz kind of agreed with me. I thought that was kind of neat. I like the way it looked. It looked pretty badass. And then because May was talking about the fact is that, he should be careful because his leg hurt. And he was moving a little bit. He's like, yep, my leg hurt. And she's like, well, maybe you should get a bionic leg. And he's like, too soon. It was like, oh, that poor Coulson. And at the very end of the episode, we have Hive talking about essentially having that scientist guy basically recreate the program that the Creed used to make him. So, which I'm trying to interpret that is he because he essentially kind of brings it up that his goal is to end all wars. Essentially, he kind of wants to. What was I was watching recently that kind of had the same mentality that they wanted to unite the world under one mind. That's what it was. I'm not going to say what it was because I was like, that's going to be crossing streams again, and I don't want to bring the comparisons. But essentially, he wants to be connected to everyone. It says like once everyone is of the kind of the same mind, same consciousness, then no one will want to commit any atrocities. Which makes me think because currently he can only infect Inhumans. So is he trying to make another version of himself, or is he trying to adapt his power and make it so that he can infect regular humans as well? I think that'd be pretty neat if that was the case. It may not be like that. Maybe there's probably something even more awesome that that can be interpreted as, but that's neat. That was the first thing that came to mind. It's like, what if he's actually trying to, control humans now too? But I guess we won't really know until, the next episode, because the season is coming to an end. I think there's like 3 or 4 episodes left, so can't wait to see where everything goes. Like finding out like who's in that spaceship in the above Earth in space that dies, the one that Daisy saw in her vision. Part of my money's kind of betting on it being Daisy, which I'm like, I don't know if they do that or not, but who knows? I guess truth be told is it could be anyone. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.